Hey, I'm John Bohlinger with Premier Guitar in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm with KT Tunstall. KT, thanks so much for joining us today.
What a pleasure, thank you. We can geek out
we can totally
about guitars and pedals.
Yeah, great. Actually, I saw you like 5 years ago in London at the hospital. And
oh, amazing.
It was, it was incredible because I was watching you build these really elaborate loops live, and it's like watching somebody in a high wire because it's so scary.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to mess those up, and you were flawless.
And it still is, which is the funny thing. So, you know, a song like Black Horse and the Cherry Tree, which I have to basically play every show I do.
Yeah.
It's still on a knife edge, whether it's going to go right or not, you know?
It's
I'm more practiced at it these days. But.
Well, it's amazing. You've got, I mean, you're a great guitar player, but you're obviously a great drummer because your timing is...
Thank you. It's sort of how I see the pedal stuff is, you know, I'm working with an amazing drummer on this tour, Cat Myers, and so much of what we both do is a similar crossover of muscle memory.
Sure.
And people are like, how do you remember what to do? And I feel like that if I watch a dancer. It's like, how do you know what to do with your arms and legs at the same time? But I'm actually doing a similar thing with this, really.
Well, awesome. Well, let's start. This is what's going to be really fun, but let's start with your guitar bits.
Yes.
So we can hold that. So I've seen you.
This old beat up guy.
Yeah, high mileage. High mileage
yeah,
on
for
that
sure.
One. What's the story?
So when I first started out playing guitar, I picked up a guitar when I was about 15, and I'd classically trained on piano. And I'd gone to preschool and seen the teacher playing piano and just fell in love with this amazing machine, you know.
Yeah.
So at 4 years old, I'd gone home and said, Mom, Dad, I need a piano. And they were like, really? You got to choose the biggest instrument? But I just was so taken. And we didn't really listen to music at home. We weren't a big music listening family. So I started piano lessons, and it was a great grounding for music to learn chord progression and the theory. And I was kind of like this little Mozart prodigy in St Andrews, Scotland.
Really?
I was like 1 mark off distinction on my grade 1, and I'd taken my colouring book instead of my music sheets to the exam. And I was just obviously good at learning quickly and had a natural propensity for playing instruments. Yeah. That talent just like waned consistently as I got older. And I was just less and less interested in playing a certain way and having to adhere to the formality of exams and
sure.
And right at the end of that, when I was just about to start failing exams, I think I got to like grade 5, I took up guitar. And I'd always been into creative writing, but it was when I got my hands on a guitar, and I didn't ever have any lessons. I just taught myself. I just taught myself singing as well. And it was great not having that kind of instructive nature. It was really just exploration for me. So a lot of the time I still don't actually know what chord I'm playing. And also I have bony knuckles, so I've never been able to play proper bar chords ever.
Really?
So I use a lot of these weird open chords because it's really how I get around it. But I had a kind of, as usual, crappy guitar to start with. Sure. I started on a nylon string Spanish guitar and was picking. And then met some musicians in my hometown who were all busking and playing on the street, and I learned pretty quickly that you can't busk playing nylon string, picking your guitar. So I started to learn how to use a pick. And that was when I started also kind of keying into other players. We were talking about the Everly Brothers just before we went on camera, and you know, Wake Up Little Susie is a guitar lesson. It's a rhythm guitar, one of the best rhythm guitar lessons. Eddie Cochran, Elvis, and Elvis is a really important piece of this conversation because this is an Elvis Dove by Gibson. So I started out with a crappy guitar. It got broken in half on a flight from Greece. I managed to do an insurance scam and get a better guitar. I got a Seagull, which was really nice, but still, you know, not my dream guitar. And then I started writing for the first record. I got my deal. I was in my late 20s by that point. And Jimmy Hogarth, a great writer and producer in the UK, a Scottish guy, had I think a 1965 Gibson Dove in the studio. And it was just one of those moments where you just put your hands on an instrument and you're like, I do not want to give this back to you.
Yeah.
And I'm not really a big guitar geek. I do guitars in the same way as I do holidays. I will go on the internet, and if I see a holiday I like, I will buy it. I do not spend time looking. If I like it, I'm very impulsive, very compulsive about what I want to play. So I don't spend a lot of time looking for different guitars. What I do is look for what I need. And once I find it, I'm good. And so the Dove was definitely a perfect guitar for me because, as you said, I was trying to be a drummer at the same time as a guitarist. And before I had all the looping, I need that bottom end. And I was starting to use just that bottom string in a bass line way.
Yeah.
It was becoming a really important part of my playing. So I had to have that body in the bottom end of the guitar. So I kind of had to do a dreadnought. And then the top end, I need the Django. And it seemed when I'd try other guitars, it was kind of either or.
Right.
And this one just ticked all the boxes. And so I was playing the original Dove. I bought a new one, which is now a vintage guitar, which is so crazy. But it did me proud, and it was the kind of the blonde front and the red back and the Dove on the scratch plate. And then I don't know how I came across an image of the Elvis version, but I was like, I know I want a black guitar. And so Gibson custom made this for me. I did my own little thing by putting the star. Eye to the Telescope was the first record. And
Love it.
Put the stars on the fretboard, and it's probably reaching maturity at this point. I mean, you can see it's coming apart. It's one of the biggest problems is because I hit the guitar to get the loop.
Yeah.
The bracing.
Yeah, and you're not
regular.
Like delicate.
No, I go for it. So there's a lot of cracking, and the brace, all the glue comes off, and the battery pack falls out. And
sure.
You just have to accept that it's a road dog, and it's going to get, a bit battered. And then Gibson actually made me a backup, which is this white one. I really wanted.
Perfect.
And it's just, I love this. It looks like Bakelite or something. It's like it really feels kind of 1950s in its style, and they hadn't made a white one before. And because I'd moved to California, I got these really beautiful Southwestern Native American symbols, which was part of the last album. It was a lot of that imagery. So it's really it's beautiful having guitars, knowing that they're yours, and there's not. I think one girl I know who's a great young singer-songwriter got one for herself, and I was like, that's so weird. There's another one now.
Right. But not with the same inlays and everything, right?
Yeah, I think she did get the same. I mean,
really?
But it's a great
She totally stole your. Yeah.
She also has the money.
Well, there you go.
But you need the tool that's going to stay the distance.
Right.
Touring is brutal on instruments, so I'm very impressed that this guitar is still hanging together.
Yeah, high mileage. That's great. And what strings do you?
So it was interesting. I've always used D'Addario. As soon as I started using D'Addario strings, I really enjoyed them. They've got a real warmth and brightness, but they've got that lovely fat tone in the bottom as well.
Yeah.
And when I first started playing, I would break strings all the time. Yeah. It was a real problem because I was just
right hand.
hammering them.
Yeah.
And I was just using a regular kind of light gauge set of strings. And I remember my first major London show was the ICA, which is a really nice art centre, and all the press were there. It was my first big headline show. And I was playing a song called Miniature Disasters, which is really like hammering the rhythm. And as I'm playing in the middle of the song, I realize I can't move my hand anymore. And I'm going, and I feel weird. I'm like, whoa, what is going on? And the B string had snapped. I'd done that thing. Oh no, it must have been the G, because it was wound. And I pulled it to get it away from the fretboard. Yeah. But as I'd gone back to playing, the thing had just come back and attacked me and had gone straight through my pinky finger and was coming out the other side. And I was like, stop playing with all these people from the press there. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, right.
I was like, I need to deal with something for a second. And I'm like in front of all these people, and I literally just had to go, ah! And it hadn't gone through the bone, it had just gone straight through my finger, and it splatted blood all over my guitar.
What a great rock and roll moment.
Yeah.
I wish it was the white guitar.
I was really annoyed with my guitar tech that he cleaned the guitar. I was like, no! And then my bass player like asked the whole crowd if anyone had a Band-Aid, and I was like, Band-Aid! My band coming to my aid. I just put a thing on it and carried on. But it was definitely a problem for a long time. And so I moved up to the D'Addario medium gauge, and it's almost a non-occurrence now, which is great. And I think also I learned how to treat the strings a little bit better.
Well, and I think as your rig evolved, you didn't have to do it so much with your right hand, probably.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is still, I think my right hand is still the main event, really, in what I'm doing. But with electric, it was a really interesting jump for me because I still don't really know how to play an electric guitar, because I just play it like an acoustic guitar, which you really shouldn't, because there's no resonance. You don't need to go for it like that. So I would break a ton more strings on electric as well, because I was going too hard. So I ended up having to go up to a really heavy gauge. I can't remember exactly. On electrics.
Which is a perfect segue.
Yeah.
Let's talk about...
But it was funny because I remember meeting a great Nashville band called the legendary Shack Shakers.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And Dave, the guitarist, and I we met on a deep sea fishing boat in Norway.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
We were playing a blues festival in Bergen, and we all met on this fishing trip. And Dave and I really hit it off, and he had a go on my guitar, and I was playing a Gretsch Falcon at the time, a white Gretsch Falcon, which I think he was as well. And he was like, "Girl, how are your fingers still on?" He was really impressed that I was playing like such heavy strings, and his were like piano strings, on his guitar. But yeah, so electric has been a kind of longer love affair for me, which is definitely deepening, and very much so with this recent album. This new album is basically about exploring electric guitars. I really wanted to bring riffs into the picture. I'm a big Jack White fan, and just really thinking about songwriting, using riffs to set the scene and deliver that energy that they can bring, which strumming can't quite do. It's just so bold when you get a really effective riff on guitar. And then if you press the right pedals, you can just rip a hole in space. Yeah. It's the best. And so yeah, as I said, I had a long time playing Gretsch guitars, which I love. They just, again, I didn't really shop about. I've never played a Tele. I've never played a Strat. I just went straight for these guitars, partly because I love the look of it.
Sure.
But the story of the Gretsch White Falcon was funny because I was asked to perform on the BRIT Awards, which is our British Grammy equivalent. And Prince was playing that night.
Ooh, wow.
And I was nominated with Kate Bush and PJ Harvey. It was a really amazing evening.
It's a big night, yeah.
And you have to, and I won in the end. I won my best British female, so it's really cool. But the label would often ask me for video ideas, and I'd tell them my video idea, and they go, "Oh yes, very nice, never mind, we've got these people." And they'd always just ignore my idea of what I wanted to do. And then for the TV broadcast for the Brits, you had to submit a production idea to win a place on the show. And they came to me and they said, "Hey Katie, we need an idea." And I was like, "Fuck you. You never do what I ask. So I'm gonna just say something ridiculous, right?" Yeah. I was like, "I want it to look like you're watching black and white television. It's for Suddenly I See. So I want everything black and white instruments, black and white clothes. I want 20 tap dancers that have got one white leg and one black leg in their tights. I want stairs. I want black and white visuals." And they go, "Sounds good." And I was like, "What? Awesome." Yeah. And so I said to my guitar tech at the time, "I need the coolest white electric guitar.
Obviously, yeah.
Gretsch White Falcon.
Sure.
So the record company hired one for me, a vintage one. Beautiful instrument. I fell in love with it immediately. It was just like, it was like the equivalent of barbecue, if that makes sense. It was like the meatiest, spiciest, sauciest guitar.
That's a good simile. I get it. Yeah.
And I'm playing away, and it was huge on me. And I said to the guys in the band, "Hey guys, does this look really big on me?" And they're like, "Yeah, but it's really cool." I was like, "Okay, fine." And so we do the show. It looked incredible. 20 tap dancers coming down the stairs, all in bowler hats. Looked amazing. I won my award that night. My label knew that, but I didn't know that. I did my speech. I was totally on it. And then they had a party afterwards, and they said, "Oh, we've got a little present for you." And they gave me the guitar.
Oh, the vintage one.
And I was completely speechless.
Yeah.
After having like spoken on national television, winning this award, I just was like, no way. And they told me it was built the same year I was born, 1975. So
yeah,
it was, as far as labels giving you gifts, that was good.
Very thoughtful.
They did very well.
Yeah.
I'm still on the same label.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so I played with that, and I was a big fan of the Silver Jet as well. I had a 1964 Silver Jet, which I toured with, and I was quite loose about my attitude about touring with vintage guitars. I sort of feel like I don't want these instruments sitting not being played. It's tragic.
Right.
So you have them for the time that you have them. Maybe they're going to get broken, maybe they're going to get stolen, maybe they're going to get damaged. But they're a joy to play. You only have one life. Play them.
Yeah.
Just be careful. And thankfully, they've been fine. And but it was a concern. And also, the Falcon is heavy, so I was finding my shoulder was struggling a little bit. So Supro is a totally new relationship, and I was looking to shoot the album cover for the new record. And I went to see Jack White play the Mayan Theatre in LA on the Thursday, and my shoot was that weekend. And I'm watching the show, loving it. And then I'm thinking, shit, I don't have any guitars for my shoot this weekend because they're all in London. I need to borrow some guitars because his were looking amazing. And a friend of mine was like, go see Dave at True Tone Music in Santa Monica. Great guitar shop if you're in Santa Monica. And I go in, he's like, yeah, borrow what you want, just bring it back on Monday. And it was so weird, like picking guitars for what they look like rather than how they sound.
Yeah.
And this very guitar was hanging on the wall. And I'd never heard of Supro. I didn't know who they were. It's like a Sears guitar. It's plastic, fiberglass, whatever. But I was like, I don't care even if it's Chinese rubbish. It looks really cool. So I was like, I'm borrowing that one. So we went to do the shoot. Piper Ferguson, an LA photographer, and we came to do the shoot with the guitar, you know. And literally, the first shot she took, I bent down, held the guitar, click. We had a look. I was like, oh, we're done. That's the album cover. And we tried to take a few more shots, but that first one was the best one. And I promised myself I wouldn't buy anything from what I'd borrowed. I went back to the shop. I said, Dave, I've got to at least have a listen and probably buy it because it's going to be on the front of the record.
Sure.
Plug it into the Supro. Is a Statesman amp here. Whoa, it just sounds amazing. Like all the things that I want from an electric, which is different from the acoustic. I'm not so bothered about the low end booty. I want to hear the bottom end, but with an electric guitar, I really want it to have bite. It needs to have natural attack. Yeah. And I buy it's like $700. It wasn't even expensive.
Right.
And as I'm buying it, he's like, oh yeah, Bowie used to play this guitar. What? No way. So I post a picture on Instagram. My buddy James Bay is one of the first people commenting, going, nice new axe, man. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea that and you know, apparently Supro had kind of gone away for a while, and someone bought the company and kind of rejuvenated it. And as soon as I posted that picture, Supro, all hail social media, just commented, call us immediately.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
so
that's great.
it's just, I've joined this really lovely family of people who care about making great instruments, and
that is a very cool company. I love that they brought it back, and they're doing retro-y things, but they're also putting a cool spin on them.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Well, then that led to also using some of their pedal gear as well. So I'm using their drive pedal, and also using their tremolo pedal. And the particularly interesting thing about the tremolo pedal is it's got a bit of grit in it, and I've never heard that from a trem pedal before. And at first I was a little apprehensive about it, because often the trem, you just sometimes want that beautiful clean trem.
Sure.
But I've realized that it's very much about your playing velocity compared to the pedal, and they sound great. And I was out on the road with Bare Naked Ladies all summer, out on the road with Pretenders and Simple Minds.
Oh.
All the guitar techs are coming. I'm going, what are you using? This sounds great. So the combination that they've got going too, I think, of everything working together is really cool.
Yeah, that's great. So these two Supros, this one, and then what is this?
So this is the Poppy Belmont Vibrato. They're quite different sounding guitars, actually. I mean, obviously this is a double pickup, single pickup. I love this one. It's slightly warmer. It's a little less aggressive, the dual tone. And obviously you've got the option of the different pickup sounds, which I basically never touch. I just find the setting I like, and that's kind of my sound.
Yeah.
The Belmont does have a trem arm on it, and I was just struggling because I hit it so hard. I was struggling with my tuning. So we just ended up taking it off because I wasn't using it anyway. And it's just such a cool looking guitar. I absolutely love the white headstock, and I love these kind of rubber trims on them as well.
Yeah.
But obviously from a 5'2" human being point of view, they're very light. So they're really joyful to play. There's no pain involved. And but yeah, the Belmont is definitely a beast. It's really like I have to turn it down a little, and but it's a really powerful guitar.
Yeah, it was interesting hearing you play earlier while you're warming up, and because I've heard you before get sort of electric sort of tones out of your acoustic, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But with that, it was a very distinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with this new record as well, it was a very definitive, bold move towards making it sound like electric, you know, playing electric guitar. It was, there's a lot of acoustic still on the record, but it's led by these instruments.
Yeah, good for you. That's so cool.
That was something I hadn't done.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And running them through the Statesman amp.
Yeah, I don't have to do anything. With it. And Pete, who's a brilliant sound guy who's worked with Pretenders for a long time, he was just like, he was doing my sound when I was opening up for them, and he was like, it's all happening.
That's great.
I'm just turning you up.
Okay.
And so that's what makes me happiest really with a sound engineer.
You're right, right.
I don't want them to be having to, I don't want buttons on my guitars, on my acoustics. I don't want to have to use an EQ pedal, or I want shit to sound good.
Right.
And if it's not sounding good, then I'm not using the right stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's a pragmatic approach.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the basics. Let's get into this whole beast right over here. Okay, why don't you kind of take us through, so, show us what each thing does.
Well, the funny thing is when people look at it, they just go, whoa.
It is intimidating.
There's so much stuff. And
yeah.
So this setup is not how I began with my pedals.
Actually, when I saw you in London, it did look like a very modest rig. I don't know what you had, but it was
there's a whole load of different configurations that I can play with, which is really fun.
Sure.
It means that I can be very flexible, which is very important in this time and age of music, to be able to do things that fit the opportunities that come your way.
Yeah, sometimes it's like a grab and go.
Exactly. Yeah. So what I started with was the head rush. I haven't changed the pedal. I've tried several other ones, and I've never found anything that is as simple and as user-friendly for me.
Isn't that great? And it's like, that's like 15-year-old technology.
I
right?
know, I've been using it for 15 years. Yeah. I did start with a Headrush 1 and I'm now using a Headrush 2.
Okay, it's a slight upgrade.
I mean, but in the 15 years of using this thing, it's a delay pedal, it has tape echo. I've never, ever dabbled with it. I just use it for what I want to use it for. And so as far as I know, with the practicalities of that loop pedal, I think you can record for 27 seconds. I don't know, that's the longest loop you can come up with. There's one song I have called Chimes, which I did go, and it's really funny when you record, as you get to the end of the loop length, it starts flashing at you going, your time is running out! And which is really, really helpful, actually.
Oh, yeah, that is a great design idea.
And I actually don't know how many layers you can do, but I would think that if you're looping live and you're doing more than 10 to 15, you are boring people. Right. So I've never...
It's a long build.
Yeah.
It's a long build.
For me, the thing about looping is that it should be there to support your song.
Right.
You should not be on stage. I mean, it's a different thing. If you want to be a looping aficionado, which there are people who are brilliant at it, and they just play guitar or they just build sounds or it's an ambient thing, that's great. But for me, it is a support behind me delivering you an emotional song.
Well, it's kind of part of the show too, because it's so cool.
Definitely.
It's all musical.
Yeah, definitely.
Like there's never like, hold on a moment,
let
me do this.
And it's a good point. It's the other reason why I haven't been able to graduate onto any other pedals, because this pedal is so simple. You can't, once you've put something in, you can't take it out. There's no
there's no undo.
No, there's no bring the, you know, the vocals in for the chorus and in for the middle. Right. It's literally what you put in is what's going to come out.
It's great.
There's one safety feature on it, which I'll show you if you really make a mess. So when I first got the loop pedal, this only has one input for a start. A lot of the loop pedals now have several, you know, at least two, so that you can put a vocal and a mic in. But no one was doing that when I started. Right. It was really a guitar pedal. People weren't even putting vocals through it. So I think I saw one guy, Son of Dave, amazing Canadian artist, who was beatboxing and stuff, and that was cool. So to get both the guitar and the vocal going into one input, it meant that I had to go into a mixer first. And it's basically called splitting the signal. Right. So not only do I need an input into the pedal, but I also need a clean guitar signal and a clean vocal pedal to go to the PA.
Wow.
So it's kind of complicated.
Yeah, that is an interesting engineering problem to overcome.
Now the good thing is that DI boxes have link inputs, which means that you can put your input into the DI box, taken out, going into my loop pedal, and then the link output can go as a split signal, so that my sound engineer is getting a clean guitar signal that has nothing to do with the looper. Right. So you basically have a technical setup where the information from your guitar and vocal goes to one place and has two ways that it comes out.
Something you can manipulate and something for your front of house to...
And then the other thing, because there's no EQing and no control within the loop pedal, you also need the desk for sonics. So if my vocal is too loud compared to my guitar within my loop, so I'll show you, for example. Oh, sorry, hang on. And if my vocal is too loud, so in that loop, I've sung really loud. Yeah. But what I would do is I here on the mixer have control of how much input is going in. So if the vocals are too loud, I turn the vocals down. If the guitar is not right, I also have EQ on the desk.
Oh, that's great.
So, because the other problem is, if you just plug a guitar straight into that thing and hit it, it sounds terrible. It sounds like, I mean, anything from kicking a garbage can to, you know, just a horrible mid-bonk. On a like a T-chest or something. So it definitely requires EQing to make it sound like a kick drum.
So any kind of EQ tweaks you do here are independent of what's being sent to the front of house?
Well, what you do is you get it, as I said before, you get it sounding good up here. It might not be perfect, but you get it sounding as good as you can. Yeah. And then out front we'll deal with,
any
you know,
tweaks.
fattening it up, dealing with anything. There's also a problem with feedback. Because what you're playing is always going through the microphone as well. So this feedback buster has helped a lot, using that with the guitar. And also in some circumstances, particularly early on when I didn't have a lot of control, because I didn't have a good system and I didn't, you know, have good gear, the front of house person, the monitor engineer would dip the monitors by maybe 50%. So that I wasn't getting that feedback loop. Right. So it's lots of very DIY little tricks.
That had to take forever to work the bugs out of. I mean, I would think, and you were doing it like on stage. I mean, imagine.
It's great when you have a little team and you're on the road and you're kind of working out these problems. But when I first started, I would set this up in coffee shops, not this whole thing, obviously, it was just me, the loop pedal. I'd set it up myself in the coffee shop, plug it into the PA, do a loop, go out front, check it out, change it. Right. So I did have to learn how to do it myself. And I had a little drawing that I'd done in my notebook, which I was in trouble if I forgot of how to, I mean, I would struggle now because Annie does it. I'd really struggle to know the actual direction of where everything's going. Oh, yeah. And everyone I work with gets so frustrated with my pedal board because it's a total mess. This is not a good looking pedal board.
There's a lot going on.
It's messy, there's wires, there's tape, but from a practical point of view, it really works for me. Oh yeah. I'm sure there's a better way of doing it.
Yeah, but if it ain't broke. Well, so kind of show me.
It kind of feels like it's nearly broke all the time. That's the problem. But it's hanging in there. Yeah.
Well, show me kind of the signal chain and how, like kind of bring me through the whole enchilada.
So first of all, when I got the loop pedal, my eureka moment was, surely if I bash my guitar, I have a drum kit. And I hadn't seen anyone do that. And as I said, it took a lot of experimenting to find out if that worked. So the way that I find the most effective is it sounds quite different depending on where you hit the guitar. Yeah. I'll show you, like, so you don't want that because you've got all this mid in it and it's going to feed back. So what I do is dampen the strings, dampen the body of the guitar with my hand and hit it low there. And you get a much better sound. Now, it's the other reason why the Dove is a good guitar for me, because I've tried a lot of other guitars and I can't get that body sound. God. And this one actually, interestingly, the white one, I think they had to use quite a lot of lacquer. Oh. So I'll show you, I'll A-B it for you.
So the tone is?
Yeah, if I can hand you that.
Yeah, of course.
So the tone is really different. I was hoping for an exact copy, but it just doesn't sound the same. You can kind of feel that it's a thicker body, you know?
It looks...
Yeah.
Right.
So it just doesn't quite have the same power.
Yeah.
And
it
resonance.
doesn't quite breathe the same way. Huh.
It's still a beautiful guitar to play.
Oh, yeah.
And actually a good guitar for playing softer beats on, if I'm playing a more mellow song. So, but yeah, so let me show you.
The amazing thing about that, the way you use this, is what always jacked with me is getting that stomp at the right time. Like turning around, and yet you do it really quickly and you're always right on. It's very impressive.
It's actually the saving grace with loopers that the world will never be swamped with people singing with loops. Yeah, with loops, right? Because it's too hard.
It's really hard.
And it was really funny after a show one time. This woman came up to me. It was in America. She goes, "Katie, I got a bone to pick with you." I was like, "What?"
Great American accent.
You. She goes,
"Spot on."
"I bought one of those loopers for my husband, and it sounds so shitty." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Oh, it's all over the place. I think it's broken." I was like, "Babe, I don't think it's the looper."
Yeah, pilot error. Yeah, pilot error. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, you have to be immaculate with your timing, in the same way a drummer is, you know.
Yeah,
it's not. Well, it's nothing magical. Well, every good drummer is perfect timing.
Although a drummer can drop a beat and be okay because it's not going to keep haunting them every time it's around.
That is true. That is a very true statement.
Yeah, you jack it up once and it's just like, you know, we'll list back and forth until it all, you know.
But I do think it's part of why I still enjoy playing.
Yeah.
Is because it's constantly challenging.
Right, it could all go to shit any minute.
I remember when I did Jools Holland as well, and I'd gone and done a radio station up in Scotland, and there was this great engineer who, I think he was called Alan, but I can't quite remember. But I saw him again about a year later. He said, Katie, I saw you on Jools Holland. And he'd seen me do this in the studio. And he said, I jumped off the sofa and I went, Katie, no! What are you doing? And he was really worried for me.
Right.
And he was just like, what are you doing on live TV? He was like, no one has any business doing that on live TV.
Oh, right. It's so
and
gutsy.
when I did that Jools Holland performance, it was it's a great show where they get old artists and new artists together.
Artists.
Really cool.
Yeah.
But I was on with Anita Baker, Jackson Browne, and The Cure.
Wow.
And
what a weird lineup.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
But Anita Baker's drummer, I had been wearing these big boots with treads in, and when I'd gone to stomp back in after the breakdown, I missed the button on the show.
Ooh.
And so it went, my heart forsaken me, and I meant to go boom, bum, bum, and I missed it, so I just waited a bar and then came back in, and it, you know, it was fine. It just sounded like a drop.
Yeah.
And this drummer came up to me afterwards. He was like, Katie, I just want to say, so impressed with you. I thought you were going to come back in, but you waited. You waited. I loved it. I was like, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I'll do it again.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah,
it's just these, and it's definitely these really nice, unexpected things that can happen.
Yeah, live music. Yeah, so how great is that?
I know, it's always live for sure. And if I, you know, in a show, if I make a mistake, I just stop. And it was really liberating, like probably kind of 5 years into doing what I do, especially when I started playing solo more.
Yeah.
I always thought that there was this cliff edge, you know, thought there was this precipice that you could fall off in a live show. And I just realized it's not true.
Right.
It's how you communicate with people. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
And so many people will come up to me and say, my favorite bit was when you messed up that song. I'm like,
oh,
okay.
Thank you.
20 years of songwriting, thanks.
Yeah.
But no, they love it because it's original. You know, it only happened that night. Well, it doesn't only happen in one night. So let me show you.
Show us the whole crazy
So Black Horse
trip.
and the Cherry Tree.
Okay,
obviously,
yeah.
My looping.
The song you've got to play for the rest of your life.
Yeah, my business card. That song was basically written learning how to use this.
Wow.
And I wanted to know if there was a vocal motif that could go all the way through a song. Because that's the thing that always kind of amazes me about Ed Sheeran's stuff, that he has a lot of musical motifs that can go all the way through his song, and he manages to write songs that aren't insanely boring, having this repeated melody stuff.
Yeah.
But my chord structures are just they change too much for me to be able to do that a lot.
Yeah.
And I can't remove anything. So Black Horse is kind of a bit of an anomaly where I can have this thing. Anyway, so I was listening to a lot of blues music. I loved the kind of rawness of it. And I just wanted to do a full 4/4 beat. The woohoos were a 2-bar pattern. So I had to do a 2-bar set of beats. Pretty good. Listen to the turnaround. Yes, it's good.
Flawless.
It's good.
Okay. Safe.
So the other thing is having snare percussion sounds. So dampening the strings and just using the percussiveness of the dry strings is great. So on the pedal as well, it flashes on the turnaround so you can see where you are. That's another great.
Yeah.
I've not gone on the turnaround. Where is it? Oh yeah, so I was one out. But the one thing I was going to show you on this pedal, which is great if you make a mistake, if you double tap record while it's going, it wipes everything apart from the first thing you did.
Oh.
So I'm going to do that. So it just goes back to the beat. Oh. Where's my turnaround? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the other thing, this is a total trade secret, by the way, is dancing and making noises in time to the loop is a trick that keeps me in time.
Makes sense.
So if I had to stand completely still and not make any noise, I would definitely not be able to do it as well. So when I'm doing this, I'm totally moving my body and often tapping my feet, you know. That was... So the other trick is I use a few Boss pedals, Roland pedals. The tuner pedals are a totally essential part of the setup because when you're recording, you need to mute the signal. Otherwise, it's going to feed back because you've just got the open signal going into the pedal. So
that makes sense.
As soon as I've done the guitar, it gets muted. And then it doesn't matter if I hit it or anything, I'm safe. And you don't get that feedback. So what I'll do when I'm running the pedals, just check my pitch. Woo-hoo. 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 So I don't know.
That is so hip.
And I don't know, I can't remember on Jools Holland, I definitely hadn't made the loop, the actual recording as efficient as possible, so it's quite long. But it's quite good because no one had seen it before. Yeah. So it gives people...
This is like right as it was coming out?
Yeah.
The actual record wasn't a loop, right? I mean, that...
No. I did Jools Holland and Black Horse was not on the album. The album wasn't out, but I hadn't recorded Black Horse.
Really?
And the scouts had come to see me playing in the rehearsal room and loved it because of the visual aspect of it. And then we went to do the show and my label boss, Shab, said, oh, you should play that loop thing. And I was like, it's not on the record. The record was finished but not released. And he said, don't worry about it, trust me. That's the song that you should play. God. So
good move.
There was no recording of it and the first 10,000 copies of Eye to the Telescope have the audio from Jools Holland on it. Because we didn't have a recording.
Talk about recouping.
I know, it was crazy.
Cost zero.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then we just did a rush recording of it with me and a drummer.
Really? Yeah, that's just you
actually at Chris Stifford's place. He was in Squeeze with Jools Holland, so it was cool.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was a very strange moment where I was like, we've just made this record. This song isn't on that record, but this is what I'm going to play. And he was like, definitely. Okay. It was a good shout. So there you go. And what I do is I've learned to do the claps and the vocals at the same time. So that cuts down a lot of time. And it almost makes it sound like a Motown record. Like, like things are in the room. It's totally real. And it's really funny because sometimes you'll have people whooping and that goes in and it's really cool. So then I put tambourine in as well. So let's talk about my tambourine. Yeah, please. I've tried different things. I've tried playing a tambourine with a pedal. Gives you shin splints. It's just awful doing that. Sure. Terrible. It's a long night. So tambourine on its own on the floor, useless. It's not, you don't have any spring back. So it's not gonna do anything. It's just gonna hurt your leg. So what you do is you attach cleaning sponges and duct tape. Wow. And it gives you the spring back
great.
And I actually just gaffer taped over the top of this one because it means also that I don't end up wearing it like an ankle bracelet, which has happened many times.
Yeah, I bet. How long does one of these last you? Because it seems like stomping on it every night. I bet you go through thousands.
A year?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what was funny with my tambourine, I played a gig in Wick in Scotland. I was doing a Highlands and Islands tour, which was wicked. It was really, really rock and roll. And everyone was drunk, hammered, Saturday night.
As you do. Sure.
As they do in Scotland. And someone stole it, this very tambourine. It got stolen, and I was gutted, you know? I was like, guys, you can't steal stuff from the show.
Yeah.
And so I went on social media, all hail social media, and I said, look, no questions asked. Please get it back to my hotel by 11 a.m. And this turned up on its own in a cab.
Fabulous. You know what? I love that.
So I was like, I fucked the tambourines. Take taxis on the road. And I was like, where have you been? Who have you been with, you filthy thing? And then there was this really funny whole like thread of stuff where people were like superimposing my tambourine partying with Oasis and like as one of the rings at the Olympics, and it went all around the world.
Great.
So yeah, I got it back. But yeah, so that's all I do for Black Chorus, that's it. And then I'll show you how I build a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, my heart knows better than I know myself, so I'm gonna let it do all the talking. I came across a place in the middle of with a big black horse and a cherry tree. I felt a little fear upon my back, said don't look back, just keep on walking. The big black horse said look this way, said hey lady, will you marry me? But I said no, 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 you're not the one for me. No, 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 you're not the one for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of noise
That was
for one
so
person.
Cool. Yeah.
And so
it's like alchemy. You
yeah.
know?
So a really cool thing happened at a festival in Germany, in like I don't know 2006 or something, and I'm playing this, and there's a breakdown section, and I don't know if Jack White kind of pilfered that riff for Seven Nation Army. I think it might have been a German football chant, and I'm playing, and it's the breakdown. So I'm playing this, and I'm going no 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 no. So I'm just riffing.
Yeah.
The whole crowd start going duh 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 duh.
Right.
Like the whole crowd.
Oh, that's great.
I was like, wait, this is like ridiculous German levels of organization that like 50,000 people at a festival are all singing the same thing, improvising along to my loop. And I think, maybe I should put it in the loop because they're all singing it. So I just put it in the loop and it worked perfectly. So it's one of my best known mashups, and I didn't come up with it, an entire crowd of German people did. So I now use this little guy. I finally got my own signature kazoos. I'm very pleased. But so I'll show you. This is my mashup with the Seven Nation Army.
Yes, got to see this.
So I mute the guitar so nothing goes in. Get ready for some kazoo magic.
I'm gonna watch you die. A Seven Nation Army couldn't myself at night because I can't forget. Oh, back and forth through my mind behind a cigarette. Oh, and the message coming through my eyes says leave it alone. No, 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 no. You're not the one for me.
So it's pretty cool.
Wow.
That
is so cool.
It's never let me down, that one, I have to say. Wow. So yeah, so then I basically got to the point where I'd really not exhausted what I could do, because there's still so much I could build, and new songs and new ways of playing old songs. But I wanted to keep myself excited about what I was doing. When I made my 4th record with Hau Gelb from Giant Sand, just amazing artist, producer, and he's very experimental, and it was really good for me to work with someone like that, because first of all, it got me into playing acoustic through an amp, which I was already doing, but I wasn't really experimenting with pedals very much. And the other thing that he did was really made me start experimenting with pedals on my voice. And I'd always been a bit old school about that and felt like it should just be dry, because everybody's just covered in reverb all the time. Sure. So I much prefer a dry vocal, but I realized when he was creating these atmospheres through using effects pedals that it was really effective, particularly if you're playing on your own. You're just delivering all these different sounds, which is really cool. So it's difficult to find a good amp for acoustics. Absolutely not all amps will get on with your acoustic guitar. For a long time I used a Fender Twin. That was excellent, but I could have it on about 1.5.
They're so loud.
They're so loud. Yeah. It's also like carrying a car. Yeah. They're just, yeah. It's not a great practical amp if you're trying to go light. So, and actually once I hooked up the Supro, and the Statesman is perfect. It sounds amazing. Yeah. Matchless is another amp that I use that sounds great with the acoustic.
Yeah. Heavy though, heavy and loud.
I have a little one. I have a little 12-inch, so it works really well. So some of the sounds I've started being able to get through the acoustic have been super exciting. And it's just a pretty simple bunch of pedals. It's just dry. So here's my acoustic through the amp on its own. So you've still got really nice acoustic tone, but it sounds electrified.
Yeah, it's got a little nastiness to it.
Just to get that really full sound, particularly when I'm solo or it's just me and Kat playing together, I want to try and fill that mid space a bit. You don't want an empty, you need some meat on the bones when there's not a bass player. So, and in general, I'll always keep, even on the electric, I'll always keep the acoustic DI line open as well, so the guitar's going through both. So that's my acoustic line here. That's my electric. You just get a really nice amount of body. It also gives
what a great blend.
Also gives front of house a lot of option of mixing. So drive. So I have a song called Hard Girls, which needs that kind of punchy guitar sound. That is the hardest out of everything, by the way. And the other thing about Hard Girls was off the last record, and I was starting to do a lot of doubling with the vocal and playing the vocal. So I used the TC Helicon vocal effects. I'm probably going to start using the Roland. Have just come out with a new one, which is really great, so I'll probably use that. But this is a great doubling effect. So this is me talking normally. This is with the doubling effect on, and it just gives you width, and it's a really nice boost for the chorus.
Yeah,
and then the other, this is the only other sound I use, which is slap delay, which is a nice kind of old school slap back reverb. But I'll just play you the sounds that I can get with everything on, basically.
Okay, perfect.
all you soft girls trying to be hard again. You know that nothing changes. Just be yourself. Nothing changes. Just be yourself.
So it's nice and chunky.
Yeah.
Totally different
Totally,
from
it
other
sounds
stuff.
like a punk band. I love it.
I know. Well,
yeah.
that's the idea, is really to get that energy.
Yeah, it's great.
From it. So then I also started playing with some other stuff. The other thing I sometimes use, which I don't have here, is a TR-8 Roland drum machine. So I get those old school 808 and 909 beats.
Sure.
And what I usually do, they're also going into the same desks. So everything is getting mixed in the desk and everything is going in through one input on the looper, which is insane.
Yeah, that is amazing.
So usually there's like 5 things, but today we've got the hand sonic, which is a Roland, beautiful piece of Roland kit, sampler, amazing sounds in there, and their little mini Juno. So this is how it sounds. Well, you've got all these amazing different cajon. I mean, it's so cool how much you can play with. I've not even nearly got into all of it, but I also use the Boss guitar synthesizer, the SY300, and that's got a ton of different sounds in it. You can manipulate them yourself, and it's just great, again, for just creating a bit of a different dynamic.
Sure, if you want.
So if I swap over it with this one.
Sure.
So I'll just do one last little.
Good, I love it. Yes,
so this is something that's kind of away from guitar to really give a different flavor. This is an old song from the first album called Keel Over. So here we go with the, but if I turn this guy on, I get a really nice synth pad.
Oh, yeah.
It's lovely. So I'll just do a quick example of putting together a different type of song.
Sure.
With the hand sonic beats.
Love it.
Give you that. Here we go.
Come over here, lady. Let me wipe your tears away. Come a little nearer, baby. Yeah. 'Cause you'll heal over someday.
That's the best.
Way.
This is the best sound in my whole show. Are you ready?
Oh.
Okay.
Drop.
But yeah, so that's it.
Drop it.
There you go.
God, that was amazing. So you could not perform drunk. There's no way you could do that.
I wouldn't try it.
Yeah, like a normal musician,
but
no
yeah,
problem.
It's constantly evolving. It's constantly exciting. It's constantly challenging.
Wow, how inspiring. I mean, really, it is. It's kind of amazing. What a great
But
art
people
project.
love to see it. They love to see. Yeah. They love to see that it's real, that we're building stuff in front of their eyes. Many people still haven't seen this being done.
Yeah.
So it's.
God, well, I'm so grateful you shared it with all the guitar geekdom out there.
Hi, guitar geeks.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Till next time.
Cheers, guys.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the latest Rig Rundown. Guess what? Every week we upload a brand new Rig Rundown to premierguitar.com a full week before it's available here on YouTube. So to get your gear fix as soon as humanly possible, go to premierguitar.com/Rig Rundown. And while you're there, be sure to sign up to get an email notification so you're the first to know as soon as each week's new Rig Rundown is available. Cheers, see you soon.